just brushing my teeth. That's all I was doing.
And what happened?
And someone came up behind me and pulled my left hand away from the sink and twisted my arm and like jerked it behind my back, like reaching up toward my neck.
Okay.
And
did it hurt?
Yeah, it hurt.
Probably not a position Donna Adelson thought would ever happen to her, crying on a witness stand in a jail suit as she begs the judge to release her from jail because she claims she's being threatened and assaulted while locked up.
I said, "What are you doing?" And she's, in the same breath that she did that with my arm, she said, "You're going to buy me commissary." I said, "I'm going to what?" And she said, "Unless you want those pretty white teeth knocked out of your mouth, you're going to buy me commissary."
Donna's charged with first-degree murder for her alleged role in her former son-in-law's murder. Florida State University law professor Dan Markel was essentially assassinated in cold blood in his own driveway more than a decade ago after a nasty custody battle with his ex-wife, Wendy, Donna's daughter, also Charlie Adelson's sister. Since Dan Markel's murder, 5 people have been arrested. 4 of them have been convicted, leaving just 1 to face trial, Dan's former mother-in-law, Donna. I'm Elizabeth Millner for Law and Crime. Could a judge rule to let the 75-year-old out on bond before her trial? Well, Donna sure hopes so. Donna Adelson was cuffed and arrested just a week after her son Charlie was convicted for his role in Dan Markel's murder. So that was in fall of 2023. Now we're in 2025, just months before the Florida grandma is set to go on trial. Donna, for weeks now, has been hoping to get released from the Leon County Jail because she says she's being abused and extorted behind bars.
Why don't you want to disclose who it was?
There's one thing I've learned since I'm there is you don't, the word is snitch. You don't snitch. You don't tell on anyone because you'll be sorry you did.
As many of us know who have been following the case, we know that Donna was arrested after she and her husband Harvey booked a one-way ticket to Vietnam just a week after their son Charlie was convicted of first-degree murder in Dan Markel's death. Just want to point out, Harvey Adelson has not been criminally charged. But back to Donna. The whole issue of Donna allegedly trying to flee the country is pretty important, especially if you're trying to get bond ahead of your trial. But before we get to that, the judge had to take up another matter, still pretty important. Will a jury hear a certain recorded jail call between Donna and her son when she thought no one was listening?
When does the call terminate? Usually when both parties hang up.
So that's Jason Newland, an investigator with the state attorney's office, and he was questioned about that infamous open line call between Donna and Charlie.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I do. So, my general feeling, this is just my feeling, I'm not a lawyer, but my feeling is that he ruled, if anything, he gave the us the benefit of the doubt because he didn't want to be the judge. Is that what you think? Well, I mean, he made that comment to me that the judge ruled in our favor a number of times. He let him bring stuff in. I either said it or I heard it that he meant it that there's not going to be, let things say that we're not wrong. I mean, you have to either say that the judge did something, then it gives your due process. If you're going to do anything improper, things not right, what's your reason for wanting to trial? If there was an appeal, would it have to be in Tallahassee when you move it? I don't understand why they would let you move things. I don't. It was blatantly, look, I have, I didn't say this to you before I picked up the phone, but there's a lot of things that we have to do, and we've got a very tight time frame. So one of them involves taking care of some things for Roman, taking care of some things through Steinberg. Chad's been on the phone all day, and Susan was nice enough when I called her. She said, I'm going to gather everything up, and I'm going to drive down. So she and Rick got here about, 10 minutes before you called, so that she could work with us. We've got a couple of hours of stuff to take care of for Roman. So, working on that, and you're going to be okay. You're going to get out out of that stupid room. Once you do, you'll start to feel a little bit better. I know that. And when I have something that I do need to tell you, I'll speak again. Okay? So, and then I'll let you know what time to call him. Can you hear me, John? You can't hear me again, right?
So that was just one call, but there were others. So why is it important? Well, according to the state, Donna tells her son Charlie she was planning to visit another country, and you might guess where.
I realize that most of everything we can do, I'll have to tell them we're leaving the country. They're not recording my phone. If they are,
They're not recording my phone. That's what you just said on the recording, correct?
Followed by something if they are something.
So the defense is trying to argue that once Charlie was off the phone call, the call line should have closed then. Clearly, that didn't happen, and the call kept recording because Donna didn't hang up. Meanwhile, the state argues Donna should have just hit end, like she's done thousands of times before.
So when a call is made from Leon County Jail to a person receiving that call, both parties are alerted that that call is being recorded before that the person receiving the call can accept the call and talk to the inmate. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And it also lets the receiver of that call know that they need to hang up in order to not be recorded, right?
Correct.
Are there hundreds of calls between Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson while Charlie Adelson was in custody at Leon County Jail?
I would say there's thousands.
I know that you haven't heard all of the thousands, but in most of the calls that you've heard, besides the two we've heard today, does Donna Adelson properly hang up the phone at the end of the call?
Yes, the ones that ended properly, yes.
On the open line call, that the first one that the defense moved in, that where Donna Adelson talks about fleeing to a non-extraditable country and other information in this case from November 7th. If Donna Adelson had properly hung up, would the recording have stopped?
Yes.
And we would not be able to then hear the conversation that occurred in her home?
No.
But the defense noted Donna didn't necessarily say she wasn't coming back.
Prior to Mrs. Adelson realizing that Charlie is no longer on the call, is there any discussion about the phrase non-extraditable country?
In the 11-7 or the 11-8 call?
11-7.
Oh, I'd have to go back and listen to it again. I know it was talking about getting out of the country and stuff like that, but I'd have to go listen to it again.
At any point in any of those calls, and this is probably more relevant for the bond, does Mrs. Adelson indicate she's not returning? Does she say she's not coming back?
No, but the 11-8 call, she did say that she's going to have to tell Wendy we are leaving the country. There was no indication of coming back from that.
Shortly after Jason Newland was off the stand, next the state called Mike Hayden to testify. Now, Mike works for the Leon County Detention Facility, once home to Charlie Adelson, and now it's where Donna has been living. So remember, Donna is hoping to get released on bond. In the defense motion, they claim Donna hasn't been receiving adequate medical care, but Mike Hayden says she's been treated and nothing alarming has showed up.
If Donna Adelson was seen by medical staff or is seen by medical staff for a medical necessity that they can treat, will they treat it?
Absolutely.
If it's not something that the medical staff at Leon County Jail can treat, will they get her care from a specialist for that necessity or take her to the hospital for that necessity?
Yes.
Have the medical staff evaluated her ailments listed in her motion to determine whether those are necessities or not?
Yes.
And have you had an opportunity to review her medical records before court today?
I have.
Has medical staff observed through any of her appointments any hearing loss that was noted in the medical records?
Nothing noted in the medical records, no.
Have they noted any sort of medical necessity when it comes to having her needing to see a specialist for earwax removal several times a year?
No.
If for some reason that was deemed a necessity in the future, would they facilitate that?
Absolutely.
But at this point, they've said they don't notice any hearing loss.
Correct.
Was after Donna Adelson complained of shortness of breath, was a chest x-ray done?
Yes.
And did it show that her lungs were clear, so to speak, nothing abnormal?
Yes, it did.
A negative x-ray. Was she given like an inhaler treatment of albuterol, though, because of her complaints of shortness of breath?
Yes. So she's had available. They had ordered albuterol treatment since 2023, but recently she reported that she had kind of an exacerbation or a worsening of that. So the provider, when she listened to the lungs and none of her cleared, she did order a scheduled breathing treatment for a few days. I think it was 5 days total.
Okay. The breathing treatment being the albuterol medication
Yes, to
that
help
you inhale.
make open. Yeah.
Okay. But they did do a chest x-ray to see if maybe something
addition.
more was at play here, and nothing was
It's
there.
clear. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Donna Adelson complained of pain in her left shoulder arm area. Was an x-ray done of that area as well to see whether there was any fractures, dislocations, something that she needed further treatment for?
Yes.
And was there any fracture or dislocation seen on the x-ray? Was that a no?
No.
Did medical staff give her some range of motion exercises she could do to possibly help with her pain in her shoulder?
Based on notes, I think the limited range of motion was the provider's assessment of it, so there was noted that she had limited range of motion, and that's what indicated the need for the x-ray, just to see, where we were at.
Okay. So they did notice the limited range of motion. They did the x-ray, and the x-ray was negative.
Yes.
Does the jail prescribe narcotic pain medication?
No.
Okay. So the pain medication that Donna Adelson and other inmates receive for pain is over-the-counter type medication.
Correct.
Jail not prescribe narcotic pain medication.
So that is something that usually most jails and facilities don't, because it's a currency. It's highly abused, and it can cause safety issues within the facility.
So someone could say they need it and they don't really need it to support some type of addiction to it.
Correct.
Or even if they do really need it, it could cause other inmates, they could cause them to be a target by other
Yes.
inmates.
When questioned by Donna's attorney, though, they poked holes as to how inmates are able to call for help if they need it.
The prosecutor just asked you about the button being in some units where if there was a medical emergency, the inmates could alert the staff that they were having a medical emergency. Did I understand your answer to be that those are in some of the cells in the medical unit?
Yes, ma'am.
Not in the other units?
Correct.
Okay. And you indicated that the way that an inmate is supposed to request medical care is there's a form that they're supposed to complete, correct?
For non-emergent health care.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And do you know how within the staff at the jail those are given to the inmates?
Yes, they're provided by custody staff, and the nurses also carry them.
Okay.
But let's hear from Donna herself. It's a moment many of us have been waiting for. Now, before they got into the alleged abuse and medical issues that Donna has said she's been suffering through while in jail, her attorney took it a step back, questioning her about that infamous open line call.
I want to direct your attention, we heard the call earlier. The call on November 7th of 2023 at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and for the record, that was call number 561. Do you remember where you worked?
Yes, I was in my apartment, in my living room.
Do you remember who was present when you got the call?
Yes, my husband, Harvey, and friends of mine, my attorney, Susan Brotman, and her husband, Richard Chagrin.
You said your attorney. What kind of law does Ms. Brotman practice? Or did she?
She does estate planning.
Was Ms. Brotman present at your apartment for the purposes of providing you with legal counsel?
Yes, she was.
And you remember receiving the call from Charlie?
Yes, of course.
And where was Charlie at the time?
So he was in a room by himself. It was after the conviction.
Was he in the jail?
He was in jail.
Okay. What did you do when you saw that Charlie was calling?
Answered the phone.
And you heard the recording that we played earlier?
Yes,
And you agreed for your call with your son to be recorded, correct?
yes.
As the call was happening, do you know at what point Charlie was no longer on the call?
No, only when because I was talking, and then all of a sudden I asked him something, and I said, "Charlie, do you hear me, Charlie?" And I said it a few times, and he didn't respond anymore, and I knew the call was over.
Now, in the course, during the time that your son was incarcerated in Leon County Jail, did that happen more than, was that a frequent occurrence?
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot, unfortunately.
Okay. And would there be times when you didn't realize at first that he was no longer on the call?
Yes.
Where in your apartment were you when this happened?
So I was in my living room.
And you heard your voice on that first call number 562, when you repeated, "Charlie, Charlie, are you there?"
Right.
Did you believe the call had ended?
Yes.
And in times prior to this, what would happen after that? What would you do when that would happen?
If he didn't respond anymore, that was it. The call was over.
And what would you do with your phone?
I'd hang up.
Now, same thing with the call on November 8th of 2023, the one at 6:30 in the morning. Do you know at what point your son was no longer on the phone?
I don't. I don't remember the call.
In either one of those situations, or in both of those situations, did you believe the call was over?
Yeah, the call was over. He was gone.
And you went about your business?
Yes.
Now, with respect to the November 7th, 2023 phone call when your attorney, your husband, and your husband were present at your apartment, did you agree for your attorney-client conversation to be recorded?
No.
Did you agree for your conversation with your husband to be recorded?
No. Of course not.
Now, the following day, did you agree for your subsequent conversation with your husband to be recorded?
No.
Now, you heard the recording. To consent to this call, press 1. Or recording of this call, press 1. Correct?
Correct.
You hung up the phone after those calls were over.
Thought I did.
But Donna, again, who has done these jail calls so many times before, insists she thought the recording stopped when Charlie, on his end, was no longer on the line.
At the beginning of that call, this is the one on November 7th that recorded you while they were all in the room. You were informed that you were being recorded if you accepted that call.
Yes.
Okay. And that if you do not want to be on that recorded call, that you needed to hang up the call. Is that right?
Are you saying, does the recording say?
Right. If you do not want to accept that recorded call, you should hang up.
If you do not, yeah, no, I accepted the recorded call.
Okay. And you typically do hang up your calls, you said, after
I mean, I think I did.
your calls with
yeah.
Charlie Adelson when he was in custody. All right, but this particular call that day, evidently you did not properly hang up, right?
Evidently.
Okay. And have you ever forgotten to press the button on a call before?
I mean, it may have happened. I don't know.
Sure. Has your phone pocket dialed people before?
Has it what?
Pocket dialed people before? I mean, when you've been out of custody.
Pocket dialed?
Right.
I don't know what you mean.
Like if your phone is in your pocket or in your purse and it accidentally calls someone you didn't mean it to?
I mean, that could have happened, sure.
Okay. And you also could have not pressed the button on your cell phone to end a call before, right?
It's possible.
Okay. It's not quite as big of a deal as it used to be when you would actually have to like, hang up the phone. Right. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Redirect examination.
Briefly, Your Honor. The consent that you gave for the call to be recorded, when did that end?
It ended when Charlie hung up, or when whatever stopped the call. I mean, I don't know how it stopped, but it stopped. When the call was over with Charlie, it was over.
Hang tight. There's more to come from Donna in a second. The state and the defense just have to make their arguments before the judge can consider. Will a jury hear that open line call?
The fact that she was recorded was not caused by the state's actions. It was caused by the defendant's actions. The defendant argues that they have a reasonable expectation of privacy in the call, but that would only start once this defendant actually hangs up. And the defendant is the one responsible for hanging up, not the state. The defendant was responsible for the interception of the phone call. It was her failure to hang up that caused that rest of that call to be recorded. It was her action and not the state action that made that happen.
The testimony, uncontroverted testimony, is that Mrs. Adelson believes she hung the phone up once she realized Charlie was no longer on the call. There's no evidence otherwise. And I don't think it is reasonable to require an individual in a situation like that, I just had a recorded phone call, let me repeatedly hit the end button. Hit it once, that should be enough. She believed that she ended the phone call. Now, hence also address something else that I think is important. Chapter 934.03 is a general intent statute. It does not require that the state intentionally recorded after one party of this jail call drops off. It's not required. Was the system designed to intentionally record? The answer has to be yes. Investigator Newland testified, yes, intentionally designed to record. Now, the state anticipated that they would argue accident or inadvertence. This is not an accident. An accident is something that doesn't happen frequently.
Unfortunately, the answer from the judge wasn't made on the spot. He's saving his ruling for another day. So it was time for Donna to get back on the stand.
Can you tell the court how many times prior to your arrest for the charges that are pending in this case have you been arrested for criminal offenses?
Never.
And how long were you incarcerated at the Leon County Detention Facility? Do you recall?
15 and a half months, 470 days.
And within that period of time, the 470 days, have you been held in the same location in the Leon County Detention Facility or different locations?
Different locations.
Okay, and your first location was where?
First location was in solitary confinement on a direct observation unit.
Do you know how long you were there?
50 days.
Okay. And where did you go following solitary?
To the N pod, like N is in November. It's an open pod, general population.
What does that mean, open pod, general population?
So I was with 60 some odd other inmates, all in one open area.
And you had beds in your room, I assume?
There were each sections off about 10 women. So, and there'd be a cement wall, and then there'd be another 10 women and a cement wall. So it was fairly quiet, actually, even with that many women, because we were separated in small groups, so it wasn't that loud.
Okay, and do you recall when you were taken out of the in like Nancy pod?
Yes, in August, they said they had maintenance to do, and that we would be moved to the N, which is a building outside of the jail.
Okay, and so I'm not going to be specific as to dates, but you were arrested in November of 2023 in solitary confinement for 50 days to whatever date that took you to.
January 9th.
Okay, and then from January 9th all the way through some date in August of 2024.
Correct.
You were in the inn like Nancy Pod. And then you said you were transferred to the annex. Can you describe the conditions inside the annex, please?
So the annex is kind of a temporary type building. It's not a brick building. It's kind of like a temporary building, and it's and there are 66 women, all in bunk beds, all open. You're kind of one on top of the next. There's no separation at all.
So one big open room, if
One
you
big
will?
open room with 66 beds, yes.
Okay. And how long did you stay? So from August of 2024 until when? How long did you stay in the annex?
I was moved again on February 3rd, 2025.
Okay. Okay, and you were here when the gentleman was testifying about the call buttons to alert someone if you're having a medical emergency. Was there one of those in the inn pod?
No,
Was there one in the annex?
no.
Okay.
Now, remember how I mentioned that in the defense's motion for bond, they argued Donna wasn't receiving the best medical care. Now we get to hear about all the medical issues she said she's experienced since lockup.
Can you describe to the court the kind of pain and discomfort that you're having with this particular injury or issue?
Yeah, I know what it is because I've had it in the past. It's sciatic pain, and I get like a pulling kind of shooting pain down my legs.
Okay. And you said you've had it in the past. You mean prior to becoming incarcerated at the Leon
Yes.
County Jail?
Yes.
Okay. And during the course of time before you were incarcerated at the Leon County Jail, did you seek treatment for that condition?
Yes, I did.
And what type of treatment did you obtain for that?
So I saw my orthopedist, and he gave me a steroid injection in my spine.
Okay. How long were you suffering from the sciatic condition prior to becoming incarcerated?
How long the last episode?
Before you were incarcerated in jail, for how many years had you been suffering with the sciatic issue?
So no, I had it last about 10 years ago. I haven't had it all this time,
Okay.
but then it recurred a few months ago.
Okay. And what was the treatment that you were provided prior to your incarceration for your sciatic condition?
It was the steroid injection, and within 48 hours, it was gone. The pain was gone. It was amazing.
And where did they do the steroid injection? Where's that in your body?
In my spine.
Spine. Okay. Is that an outpatient procedure, inpatient?
Yes, outpatient.
Outpatient? Okay. All right. And during the course of time that you've been in the Leon County Jail, did you start to experience the sciatic pain again?
Yes, it did.
And what did you do when you started to experience that pain?
I wrote a sick call, and I went to see the doctor.
Okay. Where do you get these sick call forms from?
From the nurse.
Okay. And when do you have the opportunity to see a nurse with sick call forms?
Well, they come twice a day. They come in the morning and they come in the evening.
Okay. And we'll get to what those times are at a later point. But if you don't get a form from a nurse, is there another way to obtain it that you're aware of?
No, that's the only way I've ever gotten it is from a nurse.
Okay. Do you recall approximately how far into your incarceration you started having the sciatic issues again?
I didn't have it until I was in the annex, so that was sometime over the last, I've been there 6 months. I don't remember the specific date, but I didn't have it before the annex.
Okay. And once you started experiencing it in the annex, did you complete a form to see medical attention?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And as a result of completing that form, did you have an opportunity to meet with someone in the medical center at the Leon County Jail?
I saw the doctor there,
And
yes.
what happened?
And I explained what I had, and she said, we do not treat that type of problem. We could offer you some Tylenol.
And did they provide you with Tylenol?
They did.
And has that relieved you of the pain that you suffer?
No, it's Tylenol. It's not going to do what I need to have done, no.
Okay. So sometime since you've been in the annex, you made your request for treatment for the sciatic issue. Have you requested treatment more than once?
Yes.
Okay. And have you received any additional opportunities to meet with any of the medical staff regarding this pain?
No.
Okay. what happens when you request treatment and you don't get to see them? Do they tell you that you're not going to be allowed to see them again? What happens?
No, usually I wait a week, and if I don't hear anything, then I'll write another one, and I'll write, this is a second request, or this is a third request. And then I think they said I think I got an answer. They sometimes just answer it and give it to the pod officer, and she'll hand out papers at night, which is the response to your requests. And on that one, they said you're already getting pain medication for this. That was the Tylenol.
And the pain medication is just regular Tylenol?
Regular Tylenol.
Okay.
Donna testified she was given a medical mattress to help with the pain and then a second mattress by an officer, but when she was moved out of the annex, that second mattress didn't come with her.
The relief that you got when you were able to have the additional mattress, did that completely take away the pain?
No.
Okay.
No.
And do you experience this pain when you're walking, sitting? What?
So at the beginning, I was just getting it when I was walking. So it limited the amount of walking I could do, but I get it when I'm sitting, I get it lying down, I get it all the time now. So it's not like I have it all the time. It comes and goes, but when it just comes, I could be sitting, I could be standing, it just happens.
Okay. We're going to go into more details about how it took place in a few more minutes, but for now I'd like to talk about, are there any other areas that you are experiencing any pain?
Yes, I have a problem with my left arm.
And describe to the court what that problem is, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing.
So I have like shooting pain from the top here of my shoulder down the outside of my arm into my forearm.
Okay. And you're pointing to your left arm. Is that the one you're referring to?
It's my left arm.
Okay. And so shooting pain down the arm, anything into your hands?
Yeah, the pain is it's like hot. It's like a burning pain, and my thumb, index, and middle finger have gotten like tingling. It almost feels like ants are crawling on them. It's like a numbness of those fingers.
Okay. And is this pain that you were experiencing prior to your incarceration at Lehigh County Jail?
No.
Okay. About when did this pain begin?
So I was assaulted by another inmate while I was here at the beginning of October.
Yeah, so that last part of Donna's testimony, where she implies she's being assaulted in jail, is also a major part of why she wants to get out on bond. She claims she's being physically assaulted by other inmates going back to October of last year. Now, she says it's gotten so bad she had to be moved to protective custody. More on that in a little bit. Now, Donna testified she's also had other health issues while locked up. She says her hearing has gotten worse because of wax buildup in her ears. Then there was another time she cut her arm in the laundry room.
I'm not going to be able to stop it. Holding this, isn't there something you can do? She says the best I could offer you would be to fill out a medical request form. So I said, you want me to do that now? She said, yes. I said, okay, can I have a medical request form? She says, oh, I don't have any. I said, well, what am I supposed to do? And she said, I don't know what to tell you. She's maybe the night nurse.
Okay. So this was just a couple of days before you were transferred to protective custody, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but do you recall that it was on Saturday, the 1st of February?
It was a Saturday morning, yes.
Okay. After you got the bandage to put on over your wound, did you get additional medical treatment for the wound?
So no, not then. About, I don't know how many days later, but when I went down to medical a few days later, they said, how long are you wearing this bandage? And I said, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, whatever it had been. And they said, this should have been cleaned and changed every day. Why didn't you have that done? I said, I don't know. This is what they gave me to put on, and that's what I did.
She testified she asked for a tetanus shot, which they did give her. As for her experiencing shortness of breath, she said she didn't start experiencing that until she was in jail.
I've never had that before. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I've gained more than 1/3 of my body weight here. The diet is all carbs, no protein, and when you get spaghetti with mashed potatoes, cornbread, and white bread. That's your dinner. That's very typical of what we get. And we have had no exercise at all. We're confined, especially in the annex. The annex, we've been confined to our beds almost all the time. Once in a while, we get a pod officer that lets us walk, so you can walk in a circle around the girls' beds. But otherwise, there's no, I mean, even if you want to get off your bed and just try to do stretches or wall push-ups or anything, she says, this is not an exercise room, there's no exercising here. We don't get taken outside.
Let me stop you. One of these issues at a time. So with respect to the time period when you've been in the annex, which was from August of 24 until recently February of 2025, was it your understanding you're supposed to be taken outside a certain number of times?
Well, the inmate handbook says you get a minimum of 3 hours of outside time per day. Per week, per week.
Okay, and during your time in the annex, did you experience a week where you got 3 hours of time outside?
We haven't gotten 3 hours in 6 months.
Donna testifying on her many medical issues were put on pause because the judge essentially said, let's move on to the more pertinent matter.
Incident that took place in the shower, could you just briefly describe to the judge what happened there?
Yeah, so I always, there's 7 shower heads, but I always take the same one because it's off in a corner, so I have a little bit more privacy than you'd have at the other ones, and so I would always shower there, and I was under the shower, and I was washing my hair, and I was the only one in the shower. I always go in early morning because there's nobody there. Most of the girls sleep, so I take a shower, and I have a little privacy, and so I was washing my hair, and all of a sudden I felt a hand go up my back, like from the top of my butt up my back, and I yelled, "Stop it!" and I turned, and this girl said, "You like it?" And I said, "Get out of here!" And I started to scream, and she ran.
Okay. In the bathroom there, what was this? Which pod was this in?
This is in the annex.
In the annex. Okay. In the annex, are there guards positioned inside the area where you shower?
No.
Inside the area where you use the restroom?
No.
Okay. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is what transpired in October of, thank you, October of 2024, where you had said previously you were attacked. What were you doing? Where were you at, first of all, at this place?
In October. So I was in the bathroom. It's 10:30 at night. I went in to brush my teeth.
Okay.
There are three sink stations in the bathroom. Each one has 4 sinks, and I was at the center station with my back to the door, and I'm a righty, so I was holding my toothbrush with my right hand, and I was balancing myself with my left hand on the sink. I was just brushing my teeth. That's all I was doing.
And what happened?
And someone came up behind me and pulled my left hand away from the sink and twisted my arm and jerked it behind my back, reaching up toward my neck.
Okay.
And
did it hurt?
Yeah, it hurt.
Okay. What happened?
It hurt. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she's, in the same breath that she did that with my arm, she said, "You're going to buy me commissary." I said, "I'm going to what?" And she said, "Unless you want those pretty white teeth knocked out of your mouth, you're going to buy me commissary." So I said, okay. And then she named a package that she wanted, and she's out. She was gone. She just that fast.
Okay. How bad would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad would you rate the pain at the time that she did that to you?
Oh my God, it was a 10.
Okay.
I didn't know my arm could reach that far back.
Donna hasn't disclosed publicly who did this to her, but for a reason.
During your entire time in the annex, did this particular inmate remain confined in that area with you?
She was in the annex the whole time.
Okay. And I know that you don't want to talk about who did this to you, because why? Why don't you want to disclose who it was?
There's one thing I've learned since I'm there is you don't, the word is snitch. You don't snitch. You don't tell on anyone because you'll be sorry you did. And I've seen that. And so I didn't even tell you for a while. I wasn't going to tell anybody. I didn't want to tell anybody. She's a big woman, and I was afraid of her.
Okay. Approximately how tall would you say she is compared to you?
So for 6 feet, she's
Okay.
over 200 pounds. She's
Okay.
a very large woman.
Okay. Were you afraid of her?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was after that.
So according to the defense motion, Donna bought that inmate commissary, but not just a couple items here and there. Hundreds of dollars were spent because she said she was scared for her life.
Did she continue to find you in the bathroom and demand what packages that you would get ordered for her?
Yes,
And,
she must have been keeping an eye on me, but when I was in the bath, those are the only times she would approach me is in the bathroom, and she would tell me what she wanted for that week.
and did you make those orders through your husband?
I called my husband. I didn't tell him what happened. I just called him and said, honey, I want some extra food. Would you mind ordering some packages for me? And he said, sure, honey. And he did.
And he did that. And at the time that your normal canteen or commissary would be delivered, is that when the extra packages would be delivered as well?
Yes, all at the same time.
Okay, and in the course of things, you would go pick up your canteen and then her extra packages, is
Yes,
that right?
yes.
And where did you keep her items when you got back to the annex?
So it was, you have to carry your bin up, and they put the package, they open up a plastic bag and they loosely put all the stuff in the bin. So it was all in a bin that I would stack and put under my bed.
Okay, and did you keep her eye care packages separated from your canteen?
Yes.
Okay, and how is it that she would receive her packages? How did she get the
So
food?
she would send, I used to say her minions, she used to pick different girls to come over to me, and they would say, package up 4 soups and 3 bags of chips. And the first time I didn't know what she wanted me to do, and she said, it's for, and she'd mention her name. I said, well, how am I supposed to do that? She said, just put it in your shirt, I'll meet you in the bathroom. So I would load these things in the top of my shirt, and I would hold the bottom of my shirt like this so that nothing would fall out, and I'd go to the bathroom, and then somebody would follow me in there, and she would take it out, transfer it into her shirt, and walk away.
And that continued from the time that she first yanked your arm behind your back in October all the way until you were put into protective custody, is that right?
Yes.
The 75-year-old has been in protective custody for weeks now. Donna also complained she's not getting a full night's sleep, only really 2 hours a night.
It's not enough sleep to stay focused. I mean, I feel like I'm foggy sometimes because I'm just sleepy, I'm tired, and I can't go to sleep. They've got people screaming and yelling. They bang on the doors, they shake the doors. It sounds like a drum in there. It's horrible. So I can't sleep with all that noise going on. And
Okay. Do you have legal documents that we have provided to you or prior counsel has provided to you that you need to review to assist in the preparation of your defense?
say that to me again.
Sure. Do you keep legal documents with you that you're supposed to be reviewing to assist to prepare for your defense?
Sure, I've got two bins full of them.
Okay. Are you having difficulty completing the tasks that we're asking you to do because of your lack of sleep?
Yes.
While the Leon County Jail isn't by any means a country club, you can kind of see where the defense is going because they want her out on bond. And here's what else they're offering if she gets that chance. They say Donna's husband Harvey would move to Tallahassee to stay with her while waiting for trial, and are offering up electronic monitoring, a curfew from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and no traveling outside Leon County. But when you're charged with first-degree murder and you're arrested while trying to board a one-way flight across the world, you can imagine the state's going to have some objections to that.
You said that if you are given a bond, you will reside in Tallahassee, you will follow court orders, but when you were afraid of being arrested right after Charlie Adelson's trial, isn't it true that you hoped that you could get to the airport before you were arrested?
I wasn't afraid of being arrested.
What were you trying to get to the airport in time for? In that jail
My
cell?
husband and I were literally shocked and traumatized at what had happened to Charlie. And he said, we need to just get some peace. We need to catch our breath. We're going to go away somewhere. And I thought it was a good idea because I couldn't think straight. I really couldn't think straight. I was so upset, and so was he. And it was his idea. He said, sweetheart, let's go, just get away. We're going to just get away somewhere so we could have some time to think.
Okay, so your testimony is that you weren't trying to go to Vietnam because you wouldn't be able to be extradited from there.
So my husband actually had said, you know, we've been to Vietnam before with friends. We were on vacation, and it really was like a place of peace. And so he said, if we go to a non-extradition country, then if the law enforcement decided that they wanted to arrest you or me, or whatever, both, he said, we won't be sitting in a foreign prison waiting months to go back. We can buy a ticket and we can go home. And my understanding was that I could go home and I could turn myself in if that's what they wanted.
Okay, but you were hoping to make it out of America in time before you were arrested, right?
I wanted to get away. He wanted to get away. That's what we wanted to do. And it wasn't, we spoke to our attorneys. I asked them. They said there's no pending. We purposely called them to make sure it was legal to do it. And they said there's no, what were their words? There's no pending charges and there's no warrants. So you want to go, go. And so you ask your attorneys and they tell you that, I'm going.
But Dan did tell you, as you say in the jail call, that knowing what they're thinking up there, I don't know if you'll make it out in time. I really don't. But that he said you might, or you might get to the airport and they'll stop you. It could happen.
That's what he said.
Right. So you went to the airport knowing that they could stop you at the airport. You could end up being arrested.
Yeah, that's what Dan said.
Right. And when you were looking at places to go a couple of days after Charlie Adelson's trial, you were specifically looking, though, for countries that did not have extradition with the U.S.
For the reason I just told you.
Right. And the reason that you're saying that you were looking for countries with no extradition was so that you could get back faster in order to be arrested in the U.S.
No, that's not what I said. It's because, I don't know, maybe we watch too much TV or too many movies, but I've seen movies where people are stuck in like third world prisons and waiting and waiting and waiting. And my feeling was, this is not what we want to happen. If the state says they want us to come back, we'll buy a ticket, we'll come back on our own terms. We don't have to be else somewhere. We'll come back home and turn ourselves in.
Couldn't you have done that no matter what country you went to?
No.
No?
No.
You couldn't have found out that you had a warrant for your arrest and come back if there was an extradition
Well,
policy?
not if they would, I'm not in law enforcement, but it appears that they would notify law enforcement in that country and then they could hold you in a jail for God knows how long. And I didn't want that to happen. So he said, well, that's why we'll do it this way, honey. That way, if they do notify us, so we get a phone call from our attorney or from law enforcement, then we'll buy a ticket, we'll go home.
Okay.
And so it would have been on our terms. That was the point. That was the reason that he thought that was a good idea.
In their final argument to the judge about whether the Florida grandma should be released on bond ahead of trial, the state obviously argued she shouldn't go anywhere.
The defendant should still be held no bond because she is absolutely a flight risk, given her past actions. More so now than ever, now that she has actually been charged. What we saw her talking about on the jail call and doing in the visa chat and going to the airport for and being arrested there, that was all before she was even arrested, when she just knew that the charges were coming. Now she has been charged, she is facing life in prison, so I think she's more of a flight risk than ever.
As for the defense, they say if Donna is put back in general population, her life could be in danger.
The problem here is not one problem, that health issues are not being taken care of, or sleep is being deprived, or, she's not getting the food that she likes. Nobody's complaining about the fact that she's not getting food that she doesn't like. She's gained a third of her body weight. They can't protect her in the jail. They've testified themselves. There are no cameras inside the area where they use the restroom, the area where they take the shower, where these washing machines are. There are no guards in there. There's no video in there. So if she disclosed the name, which she's willing to do in camera to the court with nobody else present because she knows she's going to be retaliated against, they can't protect her from retaliation. If they put her back in the annex and some girlfriends or friends of this woman that she rats out finds out that she's back in there, they can take her down in the bathroom, and the guards who are sitting behind a glass being protected themselves aren't even going to know what's happening until it's too late.
So did the judge make a ruling? Sadly for Donna, nope. He'll also make his ruling on bond at a later time. And Donna will remain at the Leon County Jail in protective custody for the time being. She pleaded not guilty to charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy and solicitation to commit murder. Her trial is in just a few short months and is expected to begin in June. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.